Yeah, good day everyone. You're welcome to my YouTube channel, and today's YouTube channel journey is about introduction to cloud computing. All right. So I know you are just watching this video for the first time, so please you could actually click on the like button and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah. So today I'm going to introduce you to cloud computing. My name is Cyril, and I'm actually 3 times certified Microsoft associate Microsoft administrator and also Microsoft fundamental exam certification. So if you also want to leverage on those opportunities, I would be very, very willing to help you. Now let's dive into this introduction. So today's topic is more majorly on cloud computing. And then this slide deck is just designed to also provide us with comprehensive and a very clear approach to cloud service models, ensuring that you gain a solid understanding of IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So along the practice examples, you're still going to learn some of the consideration and challenges that we face as cloud computing administrator. All right, so let's dive into the agenda. So we are going to learn about the introduction to cloud computing, the overview of cloud service models, which are three in numbers. We are going to learn infrastructure as service, platform as service, software as service, comparison of service models, benefit and challenges, use cases and examples, factor to consider when choosing a model. Then lastly, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just drop your comments in the comment down below and just give me questions that you feel you want to ask about the service models and how to get started. All right, so introduction to cloud computing. So in this model, this enables us to have convenient and a demand access to shared pool of configured computing resources over the internet. So some people actually say cloud computing is just like you using someone else's computer. So cloud computing models allows you to conveniently use and manage resources that are available over the internet. So the resources could be storage, could be networking, could be computing, which is maybe virtual machines, and even database services. So what are the key benefits? Like, they're actually cost saving, flexibility, scalability. You don't even need to bother about security because, like, when I mean security, I mean physical security. Yeah, because you need to bother about cyber security. But when it comes to people breaking down your data center, you don't need to bother about that because data centers are actually well protected where they are located. So, introduction to cloud service models. We have about three service models, and like I said earlier, we are going to talk about IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So, like if you see the picture here, you see that the IaaS is more like the foundation, which contains like maybe the virtual machines, the Azure, AWS, GCP. We have cloud, we have IBM. So the IaaS is more like the infrastructure side of things, right? And we still have PaaS, which is more like the platform side of things, which could also be like maybe your storage account, your database, and stuff like that. While we have the SaaS, which is more like your Google Workspace, right? Your Google Drive, understand Microsoft Office 365, Salesforce. So there are actually websites that are more like SaaS these days, like Facebook, for example. You understand? So yeah, so we're going to learn much about this in the long run. But let's now to the next slide. And so let's discuss about IaaS. So IaaS, infrastructure as service. So in these service models of computing resources, it comprises of the storage, networking, service servers, and also virtualization. Also by service cloud providers, e.g., like we have Azure VM. So Azure VM um, is one of the examples of IaaS because they're infrastructure. So I'm going to show. I think in the next video we will also deploy some virtual machines and see how it works. So, but what are the key features of this? So, and like I said earlier, so the virtual machine, the storage, and network, and also servers. These are like the major key features for IaaS as a cloud service model. So, but then they still have their own pros and cons. So, IaaS, they're flexible because you could actually say, I want my virtual machine to have like 50 gig RAM. I want it to have like RAM, or like, should I say, capacity of like 128 gigabytes. So just, you can actually track it the way you want to. And it's fine because, it's flexible. So you have control over the infrastructure for the IaaS side of things. But for the cons is that you require to manage, and it's kind of complex. So if you don't have some technicalities, you might not be able to really go around this IaaS service model. So for one of the examples, so I'm going to give examples for each of the cloud service providers. We have AWS. So AWS called EC2, right, which is an Elastic Compute, what do I call it, compute service. We also have Microsoft Azure VM, which is the virtual machine for Microsoft. Um, we also have the Google Compute Engine. So these are like the virtual machine side of things when it comes to infrastructure as service. Then if you see the picture there, you see that the IaaS is in comprising of the data center, the servers, the networking, storage, and the virtualization. So the next thing we are going to learn is the PaaS. So this provide a platform allowing customers to develop, run, and manage applications. So for example, GitHub, for example, storage accounts. So you could actually run some middlewares, like some of your application using already developed platform. So platform as service is more like a service model that of models of computing customers provide, initiate, run, and manage the computing platform. Right. So examples like Microsoft SQL database is one of the example. Storage account is one of the example. GitHub. Right. So what are the key features? So the key features are like its development tools, middlewares, operating systems. All right. So, but the pros, they still have, I think they have some pros, right? So the pros are simplifies development, reduce management overhead. So you don't really need to start arranging how you want the size to be. They've given you the size, right? So you can't actually tweak it to what you want anymore. Reduce management overhead. So they kind of manage the whole service for you. So you don't really need to bother about management. But for the cons part of it is that you have less control over the infrastructure. So if they actually say you have like 1 terabyte to use, that's just what you're going to use, unless you want to deploy a new platform and service. Right. So you have less control. Potential vendor locked in. So, you know, some platform can actually just use those particular service for themselves alone. So maybe you run Apache, you run .NET, and they say, okay, they use this platform alone. So you may not be able to go around using a third party or something like that. So now, examples are Google App Engines, Microsoft Azure App Services for web dev or web hosting services for Microsoft, AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So all these are more like the comparison when it comes to different cloud platforms that exist from the Google, Microsoft, and the AWS. All right, and you can see the pictorial view of how PaaS works. You have the programming language or the application framework, you have the other tools and the database as well. So now this brings us to the next slide, which we're going to talk about the SaaS. So SaaS provides software application over the internet on a subscription basis. So for example, you want to type you MS Word, you can actually use Microsoft Office 365. Then you subscribe for the online services. You want to use Google Drive, for example, you just go to Google drive.google.com. You know, you get to use the services to deploy so many stuff like Google Workspace. You can use Google Workspace for emails, for Google Meets, for so many stuff, right? So software as service, this is a software licensing and delivery model in which software is licensed on subscription basis and is centrally hosted. So they are also on demand. So they are majorly web-based application. So you could actually just type them as a URL over the internet. So for example, like I said earlier, we have Google Drive, we have OneDrive for Microsoft, we have Office 365 for Microsoft Document and stuff like that. So all these are actually software services examples. So now next, this brings us to the key features. So no infrastructure management because you don't really need to maintain anything, right? So it's already managed by the service provider who gives you the opportunity to use them. Accessible from anywhere. So you could actually access these platforms, softwares rather, from anywhere in the world because all you need is just to type the URL, right? Then you get to access them from anywhere in the world. Okay, so what are the pros and cons? They are easy to use. No hardware tools is required, and automatic update is actually made because they are more like a website. For example, your Facebook, for example, your Gmail, right? They all kind of upgrade by themselves. So what are the cons? No, so for the cons, you may not be able to customize them apart from maybe doing the aware appearance customization. You might not be able to customize them that you want it to look this way, and all that. So you have less customization, and also it dependent on the provider. So examples like Google Workspace, like I said earlier, Microsoft 365, Salesforce, um, and others. So when you see the pictorial view that I gave you by the right hand side, you notice that for the SaaS, you get to see that it can be email, CRM, which is more like customer relation management, um, collaborative, and ERP. So yeah, so these are examples of software management applications, more like emailing and all the stuff. All right, so let's go to the next thing. Okay, this we're trying to compare the service models that already exist. So if you look at this, you notice that we could compare the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS across factors like controls, ease of use, scalability, and management. So the key takeaways I would like you to get from these pictures is just to see that in summary, we're going to see the strength and weakness of each models. So when you look at the picture properly, you notice that we have on-premises. On-premises is more like your local machine, maybe like your laptop, your desktop, something you use without the internet, right? So these are what we call on-premises or on-premise. All right. So now when you see, you'll get to manage almost everything from your on-premises environment. So let's say, for example, you install Windows on your machine. You install maybe CorelDRAW. You install applications like Microsoft SQL database server. So all those things you install, you are managing everything yourself. But when you look at IaaS, you see that the virtualization side, the server side, and the storage and networking are all already provided by maybe the cloud provider. Let's say, for example, Microsoft Azure. So the only thing you may need to get yourself is, okay, I want to use Ubuntu, Linux. I want to use OS Windows. Then you need to install the middleware yourself. Like, okay, I want to control my Windows to also have a file share, which is my storage account, right? I want to also install some stuff like GitHub, which is maybe to have my runtime and to run stuff on it. Then what application do I also want to run on my application? So all these are going to be managed by you. But when you see PaaS, for example, PaaS, you only manage your data. What code do you want to put in it? And what application do you want to run? Do you just want to run Jenkins, Terraforms? Do you want to run GitHub and maybe Azure Board, Azure IoT Edge? So you kind of have limitations, right, when it comes to using PaaS as service. So because they already provide everything for you, so all you need is your data and what application do you want to use to carry out all those operations. But when you see SaaS, you get to see that SaaS is managed by the organization that provide that service for you. Like, for example, Google. You don't need to buy any hardware to use Google. All you need is just to go to google.com and you access your data. So yeah, so the application, the data, everything is provided, and you just access it by from the internet. So, but you get to manage almost everything when you use the on-premises. That's when you use your normal local machine. So why don't you want to go into cloud computing today? I'm still surprised you're thinking. So, in case you're still watching, I just want to also remind you to sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would also like you to use this opportunity to just go click the subscribe button, and also you can like, share, and I'll be dishing out more content about cloud computing and also cloud development models in the long run. All right, so let's go next into next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about the benefit and challenges. So yeah, so everything that has good side also has a bad side. So some of the benefits is that they're kind of cost efficient. Like for example, you don't need to buy routers, you don't need to buy switches, you don't need to buy big data centers facilities. So you're not paying for cooling, for security, you're not paying for power, you're not paying for cooling, you're not paying for hardware purchase. And they're kind of scalable in the sense that Microsoft, for example, must have gotten all this hardware by themselves. And they said, okay, you can actually still scale up. So you want to use like 50 gig hard drive. You go say, okay, fine, no problem. You could actually scale up to 50 gig hard drive. So you're more like using someone else's computer. But then that person has already done the background check and their homework to make sure that your data are safe. Right? So speed of deployment, yeah. So cloud computing is quite faster because so these are actually very expensive hardware devices like installed on different data centers in different part of the world. Like I think for Microsoft, I think they have more than 64 data centers all over the world. So if you look at this, they kind of have high speed because you could actually have a data center in north south South Africa not, and you are probably in Nigeria, for example. So the latency will be quite minimal. And then if you also want to stream maybe a movie, you could actually still stream it without having buffer or any lag or something like that. So what are the challenges? Now, the challenges about cloud computing is that it can actually have some data breach because it's internet, right? So you still need to do some homework yourself. You need to ensure your password is safe, you ensure your username is safe. So if you don't actually do some of the right things, or you don't do some of the right best practices, you could actually still have some SQL injection, some brute force attacks, some malware, and all the stuff coming into your environment. So security is one things you need to also consider. You need to also be compliant with some of their policies because these are cloud systems and these are like more like people's facilities. So they're also trying to be safe in their own end. So if you're not complying, they could actually say, "Oh, okay, fine. I'm going to block your subscription," right? So, and that's gonna be a big blow for you because if you're running a production environment, I don't think you will be happy with that. So introduction with existing system, right? So they get to integrate rather with several existing system because it's cloud, right? So I could say I want to integrate AI to it. I want to integrate Internet of Things to it. I want to integrate virtual reality to things. All right. So these are so much opportunities that cloud computing can actually leverage or to offer you in the long run. So if you see the infograph here, it's kind of giving us the triad we need to also incorporate when it comes to cloud computing. So confidentiality matters, integrity matters, and availability matters. And these are what the cloud service provider are majorly keen on because they know that these things are bound to occur when you don't do this right check. So like you see the pictorial view, they are reliable, accessible, scalable, it's faster, low cost, and the data storage is quite simple. So these are the benefits and challenges. So yeah, I believe by now you should be considering, oh, I need to put my stuff in the cloud right now. All right, so now the use cases and examples. What are the use cases of cloud computing? So examples of companies that use IaaS. When you see the picture, yeah, you see that we have some companies that use IaaS, Virtuoso, KVM. So there are many companies that use IaaS. So either they use it as virtual machine or as containers, maybe, right? So they could actually use these companies, use these services. Some companies that use as PaaS, for example. So GitHub, for example, GitHub they leverage more of the PaaS side of things. So GitHub, Kubernetes, Docker, GitLab, they are PaaS side of things because they kind of use the applications and the data. That's what they use more, or that's what they manage more from their end. So they get to use cloud computing services for their applications. So CI/CD automations, container orchestrations, auto scaling, and app developments. Right, for SaaS enablement. So since SaaS is more like end user friendly because it's between you and the platform or the software, you see that SaaS, the Cloud Sprint, Verisyn, Cloud Blue. Yeah, so other companies that even use SaaS are like your Gmail, Google Workspace, yeah, or clouds. But there are also cloud services when it comes to SaaS for business. And we also have serverless computing. So, but that serverless computing, I think, is more like a sub under your IaaS or the container side of things. So, I'm not going to really leverage more that part. Now, let's go into the next slide, please. Yeah, so the key factor, the business need, the budget. So what do you need to consider when you want to go into cloud? So instead of you buying all those hardwares, you can consider the business side of things. That okay, I don't have enough money to set up a very big infrastructure for cloud. So yeah, so you could just go into cloud computing. Like you could just get one of the service providers. So okay, I want to use Microsoft Azure. I want to use AWS. I want to use GCP. So yeah, you get to use one of those models to save your cost. Because of it's scalable, so you don't need to start buying bigger hard drive, selling off the old one. You could actually just use cloud computing. Technical expert. So yeah, for you to use cloud computing or for you to develop your own cloud computing, you may need technical expert. Now, for you to also use cloud computing services, you need to understand how these models operate. So these are the key factors you need to also have in mind because they're very important. All right, so now this brings us to the checklist or decision tree guiding the choice. So, you know, there are many things, like I said earlier, that guide you into cloud computing. So, all right, so summary, like I said earlier, everything that has a good side has a bad side. So I would just like you to just figure out what exactly do you think is the bad side of maybe the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. But for me, I feel that for me, it depends on what application you want to run or what things you want to really do. So IaaS has its own good side, but then are you actually using it for the right thing? So, for example, I want to have a virtual machines for production environment, then I shouldn't be going to PaaS because I know PaaS can't give me what I want. So I need to go to what I call it, IaaS. So these are what you need to consider. Then the next thing is also PaaS. You say, okay, I want to use storage account. I don't want to just create a VM and use my OS disk as storage. I just need to use a storage account that already has a blob storage or that has a file share. So I could just use my file share because it allows me to do SMP protocols. So you should ask yourself, what exactly do I want to do? Then what services will I really need for this thing I want to do? So it's just a simple thing about it. So if you also have any question, please drop in the comment. I'm very, very willing to accept you. And also you can subscribe, share this video. And yeah, so I think the last thing is for us to see different cloud service models. And in case you want to choose anyone, there are so many coming up right now. So we have the Google Cloud, we have the AWS, we have the Microsoft Azure. These are kind of the major ones, but then we still have Oracle, the IBM, DigitalOcean, Salesforce, and all those stuff. Yeah, so I think you actually enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll be very, very, very happy to grow this channel by supporting you with the best instructional materials to also grow as well with me. Thank you very much once again, and I'll see you in my next video.